Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a historical mystery that honestly fundamentally challenges everything we understand about human civilization. I mean, we're all taught about the 7 continents on Earth, right? But what if there was an 8th? I want you to picture a completely forgotten, massive landmass sitting right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a place that predates literally every known ancient society on our planet. The source material we're looking at today explores the incredible legend of Mu, which some consider to be the true cradle of mankind, the ultimate source of all the world's cultures and religions. So, let's jump right in.
Now, usually when we hear about lost, sunken civilizations, our minds instantly go to Atlantis. But our source makes a really crucial distinction here. According to the philosopher Plato and various ancient legends, Atlantis was actually just an island. Mu, on the other hand, is described as an entire, sprawling continent. And here's the real kicker. The legends suggest that Atlantis actually learned all of its advanced technology directly from Mu. So Mu wasn't just a contemporary of Atlantis, it was the master, the older sibling, the absolute original epicenter of advanced human thought.
So a really crucial point here is the timeline. The texts we're exploring claim that Mu's first golden age occurred a staggering 15,000 years ago. Just think about that for a second. If that's true, it means human civilization isn't just a few thousand years old, like standard history suggests, but it could potentially be millions of years older. It really makes you wonder, if we've been around for that long, how many incredible chapters of human history have we completely missed?
To understand how this lost continent even resurfaced in modern times, we have to rewind a bit to 1868 AD. This is when James Churchward, who had just graduated from the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, was sent over to India by the British Army. Now, Churchward was a soldier by trade, but over the 12 years he spent in India, he became deeply captivated by ancient Indian culture. He would spend all his spare time reading ancient texts, visiting local temples, and it was actually during one of these temple visits that he stumbled upon a massive historical secret.
Churchward had this incredibly rare opportunity to meet a temple abbot. He was a very small man with these distinctive tattoos on his dark skin. And at first, the abbot was completely silent, didn't say a word. But Churchward kept visiting, and eventually a genuine bond formed between them. The abbot ended up giving Churchward a tour of this secret millennia-old cellar hidden deep within the temple, a place strictly off-limits to outsiders. Inside, there were all these clay tablets covered in strange ancient symbols. The abbot just looked at him and said, "If you are willing to learn, I will tell you all the messages on the clay tablets."
What is absolutely staggering here is the scale of what the abbot revealed next. He told Churchward that these symbols were actually the original language of mankind, brought straight from the continent of Mu. And the abbot himself? He was one of only 3 surviving members of an ancient organization called the Brotherhood. For the past 10,000 years, just to protect this sacred knowledge, the Brotherhood had dispersed these original clay tablets across 5 major global regions: India, Tibet, Egypt, the Maya, and the Inca.
Section 2. The Golden Age of Mu, a Tropical Utopia.
These tablets paint a vivid, almost unbelievable picture of a stunningly beautiful, completely flat tropical kingdom in the Pacific Ocean. It didn't have any mountains because apparently tectonic peaks hadn't been pushed up from the Earth yet. Imagine these endless coastlines with palm trees dancing in the breeze like wheat. But it wasn't just scenic, it was incredibly advanced. Mu reportedly featured 8 green cities connected by these wide, flat avenues paved with enormous boulders. These stones were joined so perfectly seamlessly you couldn't even see the gaps. And the source actually notes that they were specifically chosen because they emitted an invisible energy that helped the human body recover from injuries.
Spiritually, the people of Mu were profoundly developed. The tablets claim that in less than 10,000 years, they had become fully aware of the soul's existence. Right at the center of their civilization stood this magnificent, roofless temple of transparency. This was where they honored the supreme creator spirit, whom they deemed way too sacred to ever refer to by name. Instead, they symbolized this creator with a simple circle and the word Ra. The source points out that this directly predates and actually explains the origin of the ancient Egyptian sun god, who was, of course, also named Ra.
The abbot then showed Churchward a specific tablet detailing Mu's creation myth. And this is fascinating because it brilliantly illustrates how ancient texts can perfectly parallel modern science. In the myth, a supreme spirit gives 7 commands using 4 primitive powers. First, invisible gas gathers in space, which sounds a whole lot like the initial stages of the Big Bang, right? Second, air condenses into earth and water. Third, light finally appears, a detail that perfectly aligns with modern physics, showing light wasn't produced immediately at the universe's birth. Then land emerges, life is brought to the land and water, and finally, mankind is created in the Spirit's image. The parallels here to biblical Genesis and modern science are just absolutely stunning.
In this creation story, the Creator uses 7 serpents to actually implement these commands. Our source highlights how this one single detail perfectly explains a massive global mystery. I mean, why do so many ancient, seemingly totally unconnected cultures share such remarkably similar serpent and dragon mythologies? From the Indian 7-headed serpent to the Mayan feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, all the way to the Chinese dragon, the source argues that these recurring motifs exist for a simple reason: the root of all world religions stems directly back to Mu.
At the head of this incredible society was a king known as Ra-Mu. He was considered the representative of the cosmic source on Earth, but because he was strictly just a representative, he was deeply respected by everyone, but never worshipped as a god. This was an incredibly cohesive society. They operated completely without slavery. All life was viewed as entirely equal. They somehow successfully aligned science, religion, and education, dividing their continent into specific regions for each, which all reported to a council of 10, and finally up to Ra-Mu. With this noble cohesion and their highly advanced navigation skills, they soon began establishing colonies all around the globe.
Section 3. The Great Cataclysm, the Fall of the 8th Continent.
According to the source, despite all their advanced technology, Mu's people heavily advocated for non-intervention with nature, which meant they didn't heavily study natural geography. And unfortunately, 15,000 years ago, that proved fatal. It started with this dull, low-frequency sound, followed almost instantly by a super earthquake that awakened a massive volcano. Because the continent of Mu was totally flat, lava just quickly covered their cities. Weeks later, as they tried to assess the damage, they discovered these massive, highly unstable cavities right beneath their rock layers. The Council of 10 frantically drew up an evacuation plan, but they tragically miscalculated the timeline. Less than 2 years later, a final, apocalyptic earthquake quite literally tore the fragile Earth apart, and Mu completely sank beneath the ocean. The only survivors were the Brotherhood members who had already been sent abroad to preserve their knowledge.
Hearing this incredible, tragic account, James Churchward realized this wasn't just some fairy tale or myth. He actually asked to take the tablets back to England, but naturally the abbot refused. So Churchward painstakingly copied every single symbol by hand using just pen and paper. Armed with these hand-drawn copies, he embarked on a worldwide journey to find the physical, architectural remnants of Mu, hoping to prove to the world that this 8th continent truly existed.
Section 4. Megalithic Mysteries. Clues left behind.
Churchward focused his hunt heavily on the Pacific Islands, looking for the architectural signatures of Mu's survivors. And we find 2 massive mysteries here. Over on Easter Island, legends claim that the earliest inhabitants could communicate with animals and move massive boulders simply by sheer willpower. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Nan Madol, local legends state that mysterious wizards moved 2.5-ton basalt rocks into place using nothing but splendid music. These early inhabitants seemingly possessed extraordinary, almost magical abilities to manipulate massive stones.
Let's break down Easter Island first. According to Churchward, this island was actually a surviving, unsunken piece of the original Mu continent. In fact, he claimed to have found 7 more ancient clay tablets right there on the island. Translating them with the help of a local elder, he learned that the first inhabitants possessed incredible knowledge. They paved the island with beautiful stone paths, could communicate with plants and animals, and most importantly, could read the sky and the sun to predict impending natural crises, which is very likely a hard lesson they learned from the cataclysm of Mu. As for the famous statues we see there today, Churchward believed they were built by later islanders simply to honor these advanced first inhabitants.
Then we move over to the northeastern part of present-day Australia and Micronesia, to the absolutely baffling ruins of Nan Madol. This is an 18-square-kilometer ancient megalithic city. Now, while modern archaeologists date it to the 13th century AD, the local legends say it's well over 2,000 years old. The story goes that 2 mysterious wizards arrived on a huge ship to build an altar. Using this splendid music, they caused 2.5-ton cut basalt rocks to literally fly through the air to their designated places. This detail is absolutely crucial because the nearest stone quarry is a full 40 kilometers away.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole puzzle. Archaeologists are quick to dismiss the wizard legend, but they cannot actually explain how these stones were moved. Modern science experiments have completely failed to transport a single 2.5-ton piece of basalt on rafts from that quarry 40 kilometers away. The rafts just either capsize or sink immediately. Now, some modern scientists have discovered that acoustic sound waves can technically levitate objects, but only very, very light ones. Absolutely nothing close to 2.5 tons. For Churchward, these completely unexplainable ruins were the ultimate physical proof that the advanced megalithic technology of Mu was very, very real.
So we reach the end of Churchward's journey and the end of our explainer. Whether you view Mu as literal history or just a deeply fascinating myth, the source material leaves us with Churchward's chilling final question to ponder. If an incredibly advanced, highly spiritually developed civilization could be entirely wiped off the map by sudden natural disasters, well, how fragile is our modern world? Really, how long can we survive if nature simply decides to intervene? It's a question that certainly leaves you wanting to dig a little deeper. Thank you so much for joining me on this dive into the lost continent of Mu.